It's the end of a busy day. You just saw 30 patients. Instead of heading home for dinner with your spouse or playing with the kids, you now begin your night job charting. Charting is critical and necessary, but it steals your focus from your patients, eats away at your time with your family, and keeps you up at night. The burden of always having another chart to complete drains every clinician. Freed is an AI medical scribe that makes charting go away. Freed listens, prepares your notes, and writes patient instructions for you. Charting is done before your patient walks out of the room. Wait, because it gets better. Freed learns your style over time, just like a human scribe would, except that it will never quit on you. Freed is loved by 10,000 plus clinicians from every specialty. It is HIPAA compliant, takes 30 seconds to learn, and costs only $99 a month. You can try Freed for free right now by going to freed.ai. My listeners can use the coupon code PGD for $50 off the first month.
We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. Good morning, guys. Welcome to the podcast. And today I've got Will Polston coming out of the UK, and he is a coach and he is dedicated to helping clients overcome their challenges, achieve their goals. We're going to talk about how he helps clients do that. He's got an amazing story. And for the audience, I'm really excited to delve into the conversation. So Will, welcome.
Thank you very much. Grateful to be here.
Yeah. Just briefly introduce yourself and we'll dive right into the conversation.
Yeah, sure. So for everyone that's listening, hi, my name's Will Polston. I'm a business strategist and performance coach. I am based here in the UK. I generally work with very driven entrepreneurs and business owners that are typically turning over sort of 7 or 8 figures. In terms of me personally, I grew up with a belief that money equaled happiness, and I went on a tangent to make as much money as I could as early as I could, and then had a big realization 11 years ago that my real driver was nothing to do with money. It was never really about money. It was to do with my dad and how my dad hadn't achieved certain things he was capable of, and the impact that had on me and my mum and me and my family and a whole host of other people. And I vowed I don't want anyone else to go through the suffering that he went through and we went through as a result of that. So from that moment on, I've just been obsessed with anything to do with human awareness, human potential, human behavior that enables people to get unstuck and go to that next level personally, professionally, and financially.
Fascinating. And yeah, I can personally resonate with that story because my dad wanted to live wanted us to live his life. And so he, all throughout growing up, we're taught that, medicine is the only field. But me and my brother, we're going to be doctors. And that was the only way. Really took a lot of years to untrain and to unravel all of that. So what's really interesting is what sounds like what you are describing is like kind of like this need, value, belief mismatch. And I know that Tony Robbins talks about this, and he's been a big influence. And so talk about your lightning bolt moment and how it reshaped your life's purpose.
Yeah, so I said 11 years ago I had a big realization. So that you mentioned Tony. So I was at a Tony Robbins event, UPW here in London, and it was actually when he was sharing the Thanksgiving story, which is quite interesting because obviously Thanksgiving over there in the States is a big deal. We don't celebrate it over here, and it was when he shared the Thanksgiving story, which we don't need to go into now, but it was the perfect metaphor for exactly what had happened in my life. And I cried my eyes out in that moment because it made me realize that it just wasn't the case. And I remember thinking, wow, it just completely rewrote my history, which also then enabled me to rewrite my future and completely change trajectory in sort of where I was going and what I was doing.
Yeah, he's got a really powerful method of getting you in the environment with, thousands, tens of thousands of people, music and lights, and just getting your body and just, reshaping your nervous system and coming out changed. The other question is, so for a lot of the audience, they're extremely extremely driven, high achieving. They're executives, professionals, doctor, lawyer, dentist. And a lot of these people listening, they believe that money equals happiness, and they're
Mm.
striving for that net worth. They're striving for that income, that seven-figure income. They're striving for that house, that car, that wife, that kid, all of this. So what advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are still stuck in that mindset?
Yeah, great question. There's a famous story involving a baby, born a couple of thousand years ago in a stable. You might have heard of this story, and there were three men, supposedly wise, all carrying presents, and they found this baby in the stable. And the way they found the baby was they followed the North Star, or at least that's how the story goes. Now, I'm a big believer in having a North Star in your life, and I wrote a book right here for anyone that's watching on YouTube or whatever. It's called North Star Thinking: Master Your Mindset and Live a Life You Love. And the whole concept of it is having a life mission. So having a mission in life that's the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon. It's a mission so big that you never actually achieve it. And a lot of people say to me, Will, why on earth do I want to have a goal that I'm never going to achieve? What's the point in that? And the point in that is because then you can detach from the outcome and you can focus on the process. And every single day you can get your fulfillment from the process rather than living what I call when-then syndrome. So when-then syndrome is setting a goal, achieving it, and then setting another one. And then setting a goal, and then setting another one. And achieving it and setting another one. The amount of people that I work with a lot of very wealthy entrepreneurs, and I mean, across the spectrum, really, but executives in Google and various different places that have worked their whole life to get to a place and then gone, is this it? Really? Is this all there? Is this what I've got to look forward to for the next 10 or 20 years? Surely not. And the majority of the population, and I blame this on our schooling system, has been taught to learn, then earn, then yearn. So you're going to work really hard, learn loads, work really hard, and then at some point in the future, you're going to just wish that you could have done stuff earlier on. Whereas I'm a big believer in creating a life that you love now. What's the life that you would love to live now? Personally, professionally, financially, looking at all of the 7 areas of life and creating that life by design, which a North Star mission enables you to do. And then we simply reverse engineer it. So yes, you still have your 20-year goals and your 10-year goals. You can have big, ambitious goals. I've got some crazy goals. I plan on going into space by the end of the decade. I've got there's some amazing stuff I want to do. But the difference is I'm doing it with a mission, a purpose, rather than and all those other things. They're great experiences, but the work that I'm doing day to day is what's firing me up, is filling me with enthusiasm, and ultimately enabling me to live a more fulfilled life.
Interesting. I love that idea that once you find your North Star, because you first, you thought it was having a bunch of money, but you realize, your life's purpose had nothing to do with that. And once you um find that, then it's like it's off to the races. So how can someone identify their North Star, stay aligned with it, especially if their North Star does not agree with the mainstream media or their parents or their friends or spouse or society, and especially when they face challenges and setbacks?
Great question. So there's a number of different ways, and depending on an individual's person, I would come at it from different angles, but I'll explain a couple of them. So one of them, which is a tool or a way, a process of doing it, is using the concept of what's known as an ikigai. Creating an ikigai. So for people that aren't familiar with ikigai is a Japanese concept. It means reason for being. It's born off a tiny little island just off Japan. And what's fascinating about this particular area is it's one of the blue zones of the world. So they've got more centurions than pretty much anywhere else on the planet. And they live by this ikigai concept. So the ikigai itself is basically the cross center of a Venn diagram, 4 separate circles. And each circle answers a question. What do you love doing? Question number 1. Question number 2, what are you good at? Question number 3, what does the world need? What's a problem that you can solve? And question number 4 is, what can you be paid for? And it's the cross center of those. That's one of the ways of doing it. One of the other ways of doing it is getting to understand your values better. So every single one of us have a set of values that are as unique as the fingerprint on the end of our finger. And when I say values, I don't mean societal idealisms, words like integrity and honest, and because anyway, we can go down a separate conversation about values in a minute. But I talk about the 2 types of values. We have means values, so the things that we do that give our life meaning, or we have end values. And end values are typically feelings, and end values are things you want to move away from or move towards. So these are essentially our drivers. So if we think at the lower level, we have our end values. We're driven by pain or pleasure. But a higher level of thinking, so that's how we're designed as human beings to survive, right? So we avoid pain, we seek pleasure. That is what enables us to survive. But we as human beings have our human brain, our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that enables us to think. And the thinking brain enables us to use logic and reason. And that's what we can use when we work through our means value. So a value is essentially just something that you deem a priority. And it's typically born from a perception of a void. So if we perceive now at some point in our life something to be missing, then we value it highly. And therefore, by getting clear on your means values, and there's a process that I've come across, which I believe to be the fastest way of creating those means values, which I'll explain in just a second, can give you an understanding of what they are. So the fastest way of doing it is using an acronym called STEM. Space. What do you fill your space with? So if you come into my office, the office I'm in right now, there's a load of books. Now, lots of people's offices have books, but if you look at my books, pretty much every single book in my office is around personal development or entrepreneurship. Almost all of them. If there's autobiographies, they are of entrepreneurs or high achievers, sports professionals, etc. So that gives you a bit of an insight into my space. The other things in my space you'll see are awards for various things that I might have won or whatever else, whether it's in sport or business. So that's space. So what do you fill your space with? If I was to come to your location, if I was to come to your home or work, what would I see in your space? The second one is time. What do you spend your time doing the majority of the time? So not what would you like to do, what do you actually spend your time doing? Now, a lot of people say, well, I spend my time working. Okay, fine. But what specifically are you doing when you're working? So for me, when I'm working, I'm coaching, I'm creating content, I'm building relationships with people, speaking with business owners. There's some of the things I'm doing. I'm not doing the bookkeeping, for example, which is part of my work. Energy. So ST, time, E is for energy. What energizes you? What's the stuff that when you do it, it fires you up, it fills you with enthusiasm. You feel more energized or as energized when you've been doing it for 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours than you would do otherwise. And then finally is money. What do you spend your money on most? And sometimes, depending on the person, it's easier or better to look at disposable income rather than just I pay for my mortgage or whatever else. But that will give you a bit of an insight. So that's one of the fastest ways of getting clear on what those means values are to determine what gives your life meaning.
Mm-hmm. And what's the difference between a value and a belief?
Great question. So a value is something that is a priority. Yeah. So another word for value is something that's a priority. A belief is just a feeling of certainty about what something means. So we can change a belief in a number of different ways, but essentially what you value will determine your identity. So for example, a mother, for example, that really, really values her children, her identity, when people introduce, oh, what do you do? I'm a mother. Whereas someone that really values business, what do you do? Oh, I'm a business owner. Yes, they may be a dad or whatever else as well. But and not to stereotype there, but that's it gives you an insight into somebody. With someone that's a medical profession, what do you do? I'm a doctor. You know, whereas I've got clients, for example, one of my clients, she owns 19 GP practices, but she introduces herself as the CEO of a medical practice rather than I'm a doctor. You see what I mean? Because she values entrepreneurship a little bit more than she values that. And yeah, a belief is just something. It's just a feeling about what something means, and we're able to change and break certain beliefs, particularly limiting beliefs, because all beliefs typically are either limiting beliefs or empowering beliefs.
Forget the burdens of tenants and toilets. Equity Multiple simplifies your investment journey, letting you invest passively in vetted, professionally managed commercial real estate. Only 5% of reviewed investments reach Equity Multiple's platform, with our asset management working on each from funding through exit to maximize your returns. Whether you're on the couch, in your exec chair, or the backseat of a ride share, Equity Multiple brings cash flowing real estate investments straight to your fingertips. All investments involve risk. Visit equitymultiple.com to learn more. Yeah, I love that. And I know because you help the really so there's like this camp of coaches that like kind of help, I guess, quote fix. I hate using the word fix, but and then there's actually coaches like performance coaches or coaches such as yourself, and they help clients get to the next level. And so a lot of clients, they come in with baggage, old trauma, misaligned values, self-limiting beliefs. And what is the process by which people can heal and start to identify their values, identify their core beliefs, and actually get to where they want to be, as opposed to being stuck or even self-sabotaging? What is the process?
Great question. There's no such thing as self-sabotage. Yeah, we'll start with that and I'll loop back to it. Once you've got clear on your North Star, so you know your mission, then we reverse engineer it into what I call a North Star trajectory. So 20-year, 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year, 90-day, 30-day. We break it down in the 7 areas of life. So the 7 areas of life, for example, are health and fitness, family, social, then we have mental, career or vocational, let's say career or business, and then money, and then spiritual. So we look at all 7 areas of life, and then we look at building essentially goals in all of those areas of life to be where you want to be within the various different time frames. So it then becomes a map, like a plan, a roadmap of where we're going. And we start taking action, and the action that we take is going to be moving us closer to or further away from where we want to get to. So what I simply do is, if people aren't taking action, they're not moving forward, then we identify why. I open with there's no such thing as self-sabotage. So for example, I have a client that I was working with. Her dream was always to get to hitting 2 million quid plus, right? And every time she got up to about 1.5, and she would self-sabotage, quote unquote. And she just said, no matter what happens, I just can't do it. I don't want to get there. It's too hard, etc., etc. Now, when we uncovered what she really valued, was free time. And what happened was that every time she got to a certain level, which was about 1.5 million, lots of problems came into her. And what that meant was that the problems came into her. She didn't want the problems because she wanted the free time. So she didn't want to grow. Basically, she didn't want to grow past 1.5 because all the problems came in, until we made her realize, well, if we removed her as a bottleneck and we put somebody else in place to deal with those problems, then she could grow to the next level. So what she was actually doing was she wasn't sabotaging. She perceived herself as sabotaging, but she was actually preventing herself from having all of this extra pressure that she didn't want to be getting. And when that light bulb came on, it's like, oh wow, all I've got to do is hire one more person and I'm going to absolutely smash through this, and then I'm not going to have the issues, and we can grow to way through 2 million. Actually, we can probably get to 2.5 or 3 within the next 3 months, because we can just turn all the taps that we know work.
Interesting. It really reminds me of one of my colleagues. He built originally he was in real estate, and he was dealing with just like kind of the really shitty issues, like the tenants, toilets, and trash, and it wasn't going nowhere. And then he was like, he just, at one point, he did what you were describing. He just let it go, and he focused on building a software company, which really started to, so it's really, I mean, it's counterintuitive. You want to grasp and hold on to these little petty things that are holding you back. And if you just let go, it's like you start to, which is, I've always been fascinated. Um, Here, the other question I have for you is, you have this, your room is filled with books and you're a lifelong learner and you've studied fields like NLP, Stoicism, quantum physics. What practical tools or techniques from like quantum physics, do you use to help your clients? I'm really interested in how that helps your clients.
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's more what it did for me to understand the power of other principles. So, for example, the power of gratitude. There's a famous riddle that you might have heard of, which is for whoever has will be given more, for whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And for years, people thought the answer was money. For whoever has money, they'll get more, and whoever doesn't have money, then even what they'll have will be taken from them, right? And it makes sense for it to be money through most people's lens and how they see it. But the answer is actually gratitude. For whoever has gratitude, they'll be given more. For whoever does not have gratitude, even what they have will be taken from them. There's two ways to get what you want, and it's really down to these two ways. You can get what you want, or you can want what you have. And when you want what you have, your whole life changes. Now, where this was really interesting was that a huge amount of people that I work with would strive for a one-sided ideal. So they always wanted everything to be positive. They always wanted everything to be good. They always wanted to be happy. But if you imagine a wrecking ball that swings from left to right, the more you push that wrecking ball to one side, eventually it's going to come swinging back because the universe wants balance. So what does that have to do with quantum physics? Well, in the quantum light phase is made up of positive and negative phases. And when they connect, you birth light. Now, if you think of all of the time that we've ever referred to light over the years when it comes to intelligence, if someone's smart at school, we call them bright. If they're not very clever, we call them dim. If someone's done something good, we call them a star. So we've had all of these like subconscious ways of referring to light that we've never even realized. When you are in true gratitude, you also feel light. Yeah, as in you feel light in weight. So there's all of these ways, and I just find it fascinating. And this is what happens when we perfectly balance the positive and the negative, so that our perception is equal. There's no good, there's no bad. It just is. It just is. Nothing is good or bad. It just is. Then we're in a true state of gratitude, and we're light. And we talk about people that do great things and they're present and they're calm and nothing sways them as light workers, because what they're doing is they're helping others to be able to be that. And we talk about shining your light. When you're shining your light, you're being kind, you're being grateful. And I just find it fascinating. I mean, that's just one example as a concept.
Interesting. And kind of a adjacent or follow-up question is, you're a star, I can tell. And what do you do when like negative energies or other people try and break into that energy and take you down, sabotage you? How do you deal with those types of energies or situations or, people's circumstances?
Be curious, not judgmental.
Interesting.
So that response that you just gave there
Mm.
is someone's acting in a particular way. If you just go, that's interesting. I wonder what's going on for them to make them act like that. I wonder what's going on for them to say that.
Mm.
And where it's so true, is that so often when something negative that we perceive is happening, first of all, it's a perception thing, right? So we might perceive that someone is doing something negative, but actually in NLP, there's a presupposition. Every action has a positive intention. So it has a positive intention, but just not for the person receiving it maybe in that instance. So what's the positive intention that they are operating from? And if I can come at it from that angle, then maybe I can understand what's going on. So that's the first thing. The second thing is in relation to, so be curious, not judgmental. So see it from their perspective, and I forgot what I was going to say as a second thing, but yeah, that's really what it boils down to is being curious, not judgmental, and also some core. But you mentioned about beliefs earlier, but having some core beliefs. So if you really think something's really gone against the grain, a few core beliefs that can completely alter your life are: this is happening for me, not to me. Yeah, nothing is in the way; it's on the way. A couple of those beliefs alone, regardless of what's happening, like, oh, great, this is great. What's next? This is helping. This is empowering me. How is this empowering me in my highest values to be, do, and have more, or be better? And when you see it through that lens, it can completely alter the way that you operate.
Fascinating. I really love this conversation. How can people find you and reach out to you? And obviously you're doing great work, and just check out your socials and work with you.
Will.Polston.com is probably the easiest way, or if they want to get the book, Amazon or Barnes and Noble, any of the bookstores. But yeah, Amazon's normally the quickest and easiest for most people.
Excellent. All right. Well, I want to thank Will for coming on and sharing his expertise and providing positive inspiration for the audience. And be sure to check out his socials, give him a like and follow. And thanks again, and thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
As we wrap up, Freed AI is here to free you from medical documentation. HIPAA compliant, it takes 30 seconds to learn and is incredibly affordable. Join the movement to eliminate clinician burnout. Visit freed.ai and improve your lifestyle. You can try Freed for free right now by going to freed.ai. My listeners can use the coupon code PGD for $50 off the first month.
I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislumdphd.com, for more support. I'll see you next week.